Right, good morning, afternoon, evening, 8th grade. I've got a lot to cover today, so I'm going to try to stick to just the basics. We're going to go over our characters and also our guided notes so that you feel like you can kind of keep up with who's doing what. I'll walk you through that. I'm also going to post the character keeper information that I share in this PowerPoint. I'm going to post that to our video um, announcement for today. So today's work, you're going to, of course, watch today's video, and then you are also going to read chapters 31 through 33 and do the guided notes for tomorrow. We'll go over that. Continue with your character keeper sheet as you meet new characters or find out new information. Tomorrow, I'm going to go over Vifort's family and the de Morcerf family, and also Bartholomew and Andrea. So you're going to meet those characters tomorrow, and I will go over them. Your discussion post that's due Friday, remember your answer plus respond to 2 different classmates, and make sure that those are thoughtful responses that you give to your classmates as well. Weekly grammars due Friday. That's mostly verbs and compound subject verb review. And over the next few weeks, I'll continue just to loop back and hit some of the concepts that I really want to make sure we get before you move on to 9th grade. All right, I'm also going to post on Friday a survey for weeks 2 and 3. That's a quick and easy, did you do it study skills grade, but that will also give me some feedback as to how last week and this week went for you guys. Coming up, we've got our open book quiz on the Count of Monte Cristo on Tuesday, April 21st. So that'll be over chapters 1 through 40. Again, you can use all of your notes for this and your book as well. And then open book vocabulary quiz lesson 12 will be Friday, April 24th, and I'll be posting the list for those of you who may not have access to your book if you weren't able to pick that up from the school, so that you have it. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our characters. All right, character keeper chart. Here we go. I will also put this on the same page as this video so that you've got my copy as well. All right, so the Count of Monte Cristo, that's the disguise that Edmond uses. It's the primary one. It's his new identity. You could put that down in your own words. This is for his quest for revenge, and he is first introduced in Rome with his interactions with Franz and Albert. So that's when we first see the Count of Monte Cristo is in Rome at that carnival. Abbe Busini, that is another one of Edmond's disguises. Remember, that's the Italian priest that questioned Caderousse. We need to add that he's responsible for freeing Bertruccio, who was wrongfully accused of Madame Caderousse and the jeweler's deaths. Okay, so we covered that a few days ago, so you want to add that to his name so that you remember who did what. Okay. Lord Wilmore, so he's the Englishman disguise. He was the guy that helped to save the Morel family from financial ruin. He bought a big portion of Monsieur Morel's debt, and then pretty much gave him an extension on that. And then to help cover his other debts, he sneaked him some money through the disguise of Sinbad the Sailor. And that's what really prevented Monsieur Morel from committing suicide. So Sinbad the Sailor, that was the disguise to send the message to Julie Morel to save her father. So remember, Edmond uses his multiple disguises with some of the same people to orchestrate his events so that they don't realize that they're actually meeting him twice or 3 times. All right, so those are his disguises updated. Danglars, so remember he married Madame Danglars. Eugenie is his daughter, and he's going to lose a whole bunch of money regarding his investments in Spain, and his wife is connected to that along with an affair that she is having. Okay, Caderousse, this is another one of Dantes's enemies. So remember, he killed his wife and the jeweler and blames Benedetto through his, leaving him. Okay, Fernand, remember he becomes the Count de Morcerf. We'll talk more about him tomorrow, but he marries Mercedes and has a son named Albert. So you want to make sure that you've got that down if you don't already. Okay, Vifort. This is where we once again see a pretty scandalous and nasty set of Vifort. So he had an affair with Madame Danglars at his in-laws' home. And this is the story that Bertruccio tells to the Count of Monte Cristo. And Madame Danglars has a child through that affair, and Villefort tries to suffocate the child and bury it alive. Um, but in the midst of this, that's when Bertuccio tries to kill him. So he stabs Villefort. Villefort survives that wound, but obviously he's out of commission. And so Bertuccio is able to take the child, and the son lives, and he is adopted by Bertuccio and his sister. And that child is Benedetto. Now, Mercedes, she, remember, marries Fernand, becomes the Countess de Morcerf. So when you see her, think Mercedes. And she has the son named Albert. And as we've already mentioned, she suspects that the Count might be Edmond. Morel, just to recap there, he's lost all of his ships to be saved by the Lord Willimore and Sinbad the Sailor, aka Edmond, which he realizes on his deathbed that the one who had orchestrated all those disguises and all those blessings for him was actually Edmond, who had saved him. Okay. Ali, so that's the Count's mute Nubian servant. So he's from an Arab country, and he also is the one that's really strong and helps to rescue Madame Villefort and her son Edouard when the horses go wild. Luigi Vampa, he's the Italian bandit who kidnaps Albert on behalf of the Count, and then the Count is able to perform his heroic deed and demand Albert's freedom, which looks really good to Albert's parents. And then Peppino, he's the guy that was supposed to be executed, but the Count had other plans for him, so he had intervened in this to use him partly in the staged kidnapping with Luigi Vampa. So he delivers the ransom note from Albert to his friend Franz, and then, of course, the Count's able to step in and save the day. Baptistin, he is a servant in the Count's home. He's the one that really introduces Albert and Franz to the Count when they're in Rome. Bertuccio, he shows up a lot more. He's the servant who was hired by the Count because of his history with Monsieur de Villefort. Okay, so remember, he's the one whose brother was murdered and Villefort did nothing. He vowed to kill Villefort, stabbed him at the Saint Demeran house, and rescued the buried baby and adopted him, Benedetto. He became a smuggler to support Benedetto and his sister-in-law, Sunta, and he was arrested for the deaths of Madame Caderousse and the jeweler because Caderousse had escaped. Okay, so we're trying to, we've looked at, through our guided notes, the structure and outline of the events. Now we're trying to match those events with the proper characters, especially when you have a lot of either French or Italian names, and then a lot of them starting with the same letter. So that's why it seems like we're doing some repetition here, but we're reorganizing the information. Okay, Benedetto, so that's the adopted son that's not very grateful or kind about it. He's the son of Monsieur Villefort and Madame Danglars, buried alive by Villefort but saved by Bertuccio, and his actions led to the death of his adopted mother, Assunta. So he and his friends, they were a bunch of nasty boys. They're the ones who held her feet over the fire and tortured her until they could find what they wanted, and then she died. So pretty sad. Madame Danglars, she married Baron Danglars. Okay, remember, he's now a banker, and she's the one that has the affair with Monsieur Villefort and has Benedetto. She does not actually know that Villefort buried her son alive. Okay, she thinks that the child was stillborn, which means that he was dead right at the time that he was born. So he kept that from her. She knew she had lost the child, but she did not know why. Okay. All right, we're going to stop there because that's a lot of characters, a lot of information. Remember, I'll post this on the same page as our video for today. Our, sorry, our reading for today, chapters 28 through 30. So let's look at these. We have the Count, okay? And he goes to visit Maximilian Morel. So remember, that's Monsieur Morel's son. But why is he all of a sudden going to visit him? Well, he's also visiting Julie and Emmanuel Herbalt. Remember, that is Monsieur Morel's daughter, Julie. Okay, so Julie and Maximilian are brother and sister. Julie had wanted to marry Emmanuel and wasn't able to until her dad came into all that money that the Count orchestrated for him to have. So he goes to visit that family. Now, Julia and Emmanuel have something displayed in their home, and it's the red silk purse that contained the money to pay their father's debt and the diamond for her dowry with a letter from Sinbad the sailor. So that silk purse, remember, was first used by Morel to pay for Edmond's father's funeral. Edmond then took that purse to use it to give money to the Morel family to save them from disaster. The Count, of course, knows the real reason that their father was saved, but he's playing a part. And so he suspects that Lord Wilmore is the one that saved their father, which is true. But he's also, again, really playing into his characters and disguises here. Monsieur Morel, right as he's dying, he has that revelation of, oh, it was Edmond Dantes. That's the one who saved me. He makes the connection with the red silk purse, makes the connection with who he really knows despite his changed appearances. In chapter 29, Valentine is Villefort's daughter from his first marriage to Renee. Okay, so remember Renee de Saint-Méran. She was the rich lady of status he married at the beginning of the novel, but she died. And so Villefort is his daughter. She is the stepdaughter of Madame de Villefort. Valentine is also the one that takes care of her grandfather, Monsieur Nortier. So Nortier, remember, was the Bonapartist that Villefort did not want to be associated with, even though he was his father. So he is now taken care of by Valentine. The Count has a really interesting and kind of creepy and sinister conversation with Madame Villefort. He says in this conversation, I'm sure the seed I've sown hasn't fallen on barren ground. It was at this time that he was talking about a certain medicine that could be used as either a poison or as something to revive someone. So there's this substance he used to revive her son after the carriage accident, but if you have the wrong dosage of it, it will kill you. So you can give it in small quantities to build up an immunity, but just the wrong amount will kill you. And he's planting this information in Madame de Villefort's mind because he knows she's the type of person who has some people she's going to want to get rid of. So he's basically telling her how easy it is to use this poison and not be detected. No one knows why, and you don't have to worry about being caught. Okay. In chapter 30, we find out Albert is engaged to Eugenie Danglars. Okay, so Albert, remember that's Fernand and Mercedes' son. He is engaged to Danglars' daughter. Okay, now he doesn't actually want to marry her because he thinks she's too rich, and she doesn't want to marry him either. There's two groups of young people who are supposed to be married because their parents say so, but they don't actually want to marry each other. They're just going through the motions. Now, the Count agrees to help Albert out of this marriage through saying, okay, here's what I'll do. I'm not going to invite you to a dinner party where the Danglars and Villefort families will be in attendance. Okay, so you are going to have a way to kind of escape and get away from this family for a while. And it can also look like a social blunder as well. Now, the Count has a meeting with Albert and then another meeting right after it. And he says he has to meet with Major Bartholomew and his son Andrea. And you will find out in chapters 31 through 30 what you're supposed to know about them. So we